Welcome back, guys. It's been a while. We're getting back to building this board now. So I'm going to show you in the future videos on how to laminate this board. But before that, we need to talk about the fin system. This is the critical point where we need to make some decisions. I already know what type of fin system I'm putting on this. I'm going to do a glass-on system because it's kind of cool looking, and I wanted to show you guys how to do a glass-on fin. I always had problems with it, but once I figured it out, it's pretty simple. At least it's my method. But we won't see that until later. What we need to do right now is talk about the different fin systems so you can make the decision on what type you want to install. Maybe you already have an existing fin system, you have a quiver, and you already use future fins or FCS fins. So maybe that may have an influence, or you like one more than the other, or you like both. Anyways, so let's talk about the different systems. So what we have, let's first talk about this traditional type here that's been around for quite some time. This is called a Bane box. And it's a fin box that I've mostly seen used in longer boards, bigger boards. It's big, it's robust. You can get different sizes, you can get shorter ones. I think you can get one longer, even longer than this. This is a 10.5-inch one, and it's made by Fins Unlimited, it's the brand. But they call it a Bane box, I believe. This is installed after laminating or after the hot coat. It can install pretty much in any stage, but there's a specific order of operation that that makes this a little easier to install. But I haven't done one in a while. I've installed like maybe 3 or 4, but these are a little bit trickier in terms of you need a router to actually install these, and you're cutting out the middle stringer, and the middle stringer can sometimes be a bit of a pain. But they're because you're cutting so deep. But anyways, I like this. Works well. I have this on my retro single fin, so you can check out the previous video series I did building that board, and I installed one of these on that board. How it works is there is a slot in here, and then you put, now there's a little bar here that keeps it from collapsing. They have that in there right now, but once you're done, you pull that out. But what's in here is you slide a metal plate, and it has a bolt hole, and then you slide your fin in there, and maybe I'll show you on my retro single fin. It slides in, and then it locks in place by tightening down on the metal plate. Works really well, very solid. And then once it's installed, you grind off the excess. So that's that guy there. So the next system is the FCS fit system that I'm going to talk about, and they use FCS plugs. These are very common. They're not my favorite fin system because I've broken plugs, I've lost fins out of these. I'm not a big fan of the FCS system. Now, that's just my personal experience. Everyone's had different experiences, but I just find that they're not as strong as like a future fin system, or I think FCS has a newer version of this, or an easier way of installing it. That's more of a one piece, because you typically need 2 of them, and then the fin has 2 slots that fit in. But they are easy to install because you just need to drill a hole, you take out the foam, you put this in with some epoxy or polyester resin, and with some filler, and it just there's lots of slots there that holds it in, and then these tabs here hold it up on top of the board. So this is installed after lamination. Might even be installed actually after the hot coat. I am going to install one probably at the tip of the front of the board for a GoPro mount, so I'll show you how to install one of these without their installation kit. I'm just going to router out a hole and put this guy in. So that's FCS, and like I say, I think they have newer boxes to hold their fins, so I'm not as familiar with those. I only have a limited experience in a few different fin systems, so go do your research. And the last fin system I'm going to talk about, besides the glass-on fins, is future fins. And these boxes kind of look like that. And what I like about these guys is they're incredibly strong in the sense that it holds the fin all the way across, so it's got a nice solid hold, and it's held in with a set screw on the end there. I really like Futures. It's my personal preference. Maybe I'm a little biased, but I've had really great experience with Future fins. So how are these installed? Well, at least I think there's one drawback to this fin system, is the cost of installation. If you're not doing this for a living, the installation kit is like $200. Now, in my retro single fin and a few other videos I have on my channel, I install these without using their templating system for a router. I just kind of make a template of my own and I router it out, and I kind of set it in a little bit of trial and error, but I get really good results with it. But you need their system if you want to do a professional job. But it is possible to install one without their system. I've done it, works well. But if you're going to go with this system, now this is a knockoff from Aliexpress that I ordered online. I highly recommend don't going with the knockoffs. Go with the genuine Future fin ones. They're better quality. The set screws are better. The way the plastic is made here, there's just more quality control, obviously, with their version. So in this case, don't get the generic knockoff from China, even though they're probably all made in China. So that's Future fins. I quite enjoy these. Oh, and I guess I should mention, these are installed, this is why it's critical, these are installed before lamination. So you install this, you router it out, you install this into the board, and then it gets glassed over. This gets taped shut, this opening, and it gets glassed over, hot coated, gloss coated, and then when you're sanding, you sand this back open, and that's it. The fin box is installed. I quite like these myself. And now the final, oh, actually, before I mention that, I have bought fins from Aliexpress online just to experiment, and you get some pretty good quality fins. Like this is a Futures. So check out Aliexpress. It's another option for ordering fins if you don't want to break the bank and try out different fins or different fin systems. They're not going to be like the really good, like this is an FCS, Future fins with a honeycomb fiberglass type of resin thing inside, and it's really light. You're not going to get quality quite like this, but you'll get some cheaper plastic fins. And hey, if you're just starting out, get some fins that you can bang up that you don't really care about. It's an option. Okay, so the final thing I'm going to talk about is making fins like this, and I'm going to show you right after I'm done talking here how to make a set of these fins. So this is made out of a piece of I believe walnut, and I profiled, or I foiled this fin myself, or this set of fins I should say, right here. And I'm going to glass these onto the board. So this is what I'm going with. The cons to this is once you install these fins, you can't change the fin cant. You can't change the angle. Well, I guess once you install the fin boxes, you can't really change the angle either. But with at least like Future fins, the fin cant is built into the fin. So if you see here, this is the right-hand fin. You notice how it's tilted off this way. Well, and the center fin will be straight up. So this is the center fin in the Future fins. This is the right-hand side. You notice how the fin cant, or the angle, is going out like that. So your fin box gets installed flat, and then the fin cant is on the fin, and you can buy different fins in different angles, I believe. So that's kind of nice. But if you glass on the fin, you have to determine the angle that you want your fins on. So you need to determine that ahead of time. I already kind of have an idea. I'm just going to replicate an old board, and you'll install your fins on the surfboard with the glass on fins after the lamination step. And that's why I'm stressing why it's so important. You need to make the decision now, or else it gets a little bit harder to install maybe the Future fin boxes later on. Not impossible, certainly can do it, but why do it later when you can do it properly, do it at the beginning in the proper order of operations. So I have my fins made. I'll show you now how to make these fins. It's just basic woodworking really, and they came out great. I'm really happy with these. Then we're gonna go and once I'm done this, the next video will be preparing this board for lamination, which I know for some people, that's the part that a lot of people don't understand how to do. So I'm also gonna hopefully maybe partway through this video series, or maybe at the very end, I might do a Q&A and take some of your questions and see if I can provide some of my limited knowledge that I've learned over the few years as a hobbyist making boards, and maybe help some of you guys out. So I'll do maybe a video or a couple videos around that, depending on what kind of questions and if I can actually answer the questions. All right, so let's get to making these fins. Now that we have the fins all profiled and the rough shape cut out, it's time to foil them. And in order to do that, we're going to follow the existing fins to do it. So one side is flat on the side fins and then round it, so it'll be thinner on the trailing edge and the leading edge is a little thicker, no different than kind of like an airfoil on an airplane. And then the middle fin is of course going to have a foil on both sides. So okay, let's get to it. There's not much to explain. If you have an existing set of fins, just follow, just kind of look at them and kind of follow the profile. So the sander I'm using is just this belt sander here. You could use a circular sander. You could use a grinder with a flap disc. That would work well. So this is more woodworking, so I'm not really going to get into it so much. Just be a little creative. However you can shape the fin, that's the way to do it. So I switched over to my 1x42 inch belt sander. Just makes it a little easy to profile. So another way to profile it is to use a flap disc on a mini grinder. and that can really get into the contours of the fin. So I've profiled the edge of the fin so that it's finned out, so I have a fine edge, and then I'm going to profile the rest of it. So I've done the rear, the back portion of the fin, and then the trailing edge, and then the leading edge here, I've profiled it so that it's nice and thin. You can see it there. So I already have one done here. I'm going to replicate this. As you can see here, it's a little thinner on the rear, and then on the leading edge it's thicker. Just look at, if you have an existing fin, just replicate something like that, and that'll kind of get you to where you need to be. Or you can do a little research and just kind of shape something to your liking. Or if you have a set of fins that you really like, try replicating those. But anyways, I'm going to continue on and just profile that. So I would just use my angle grinder with a flap disc to do the majority of it, and then I just switch over and maybe hand sand it smooth, or just use like a palm sander just to sand the rest of it. Alright, now I'm going to hit it with the palm sander, this random orbital palm sander, to smooth out the edges, smooth out the top, the side, just finish off the profiling, and that should about do it. Here's the finished second fin. I got the middle one left to do. So this is the one for the right hand side. I've already done the left hand side. So you kind of see, I'll get it closer up, get some pictures of it so you can kind of see, but I can't get it to focus in right now. So it's profiled on the back, profiled on the front, on the leading edge, nice and smooth. I have two fins finished now. So I have the left hand one here, which I did originally, and then now I have the right hand one right here. So it's all profiled. I did the same for both, just on opposite sides, kept it flat on the inside, and then on the outside is where I did all the profiling. So there's two of them there, and then I'm going to cut off the excess here. Now I have to do the middle. So the middle fin will be profiled differently. The middle will have both edges, both sides of the fin profiled like this. So it's foiled on both sides, whereas this has been foiled on one side for the left, foiled on the right hand side. And then this one's been foiled on the right for the right hand side. So it'll be like that, and then the fin in the middle. So let's do the middle. I'll show a little bit of it, but you get the idea now. And I've also profiled it down. I don't know if you can see how fine on the edges are. You want that nice and fine, almost sharp. So here's the middle fin. I've got it profiled down. It's still really rough. It's still a little thick right on the tip here, right on the leading edge. But the foiling's going nicely, so I'll do some more foiling and then I'll just sand it. But this guy's almost done. All right, here's the middle fin, all profiled. It's looked pretty good. Nice sharp edge on the front and the rear. So it's all foiled, ready to go. So we'll move on to laminating the board, and then we will need these later on. We'll need these after the lamination step. So it's important to make your fins beforehand because you don't want to be messing around trying to make these while you're laminating the board.